This episode is partially brought to you by the Humble Choice program. Did you know Humble Bundle has a great monthly subscription service that lets you get a ton of video games every single month? That's right, from plans range from $5 to $20 a month, you get a hold of a bunch of free games they have available to you. And you could use our code down in the description below to go and sign up. It would help our podcast and help you see what great games are available for you this month. Hello everyone and welcome to one of these fun interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from across, the pond or so. To get us started, would you please mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Hi, thanks very much for having me on. I am from the UK. I'm living in near London, and my name's Ben, and I'm the creator of a game called Squingle that we've been developing for the last year or so.
So let's get this obvious. Looking at it, it's not giving a straight answer at all. What to you is Squingle when you explain it to people?
Well, I've still not got this down really very well, but it's kind of like a spiraling, psychedelic, casual puzzle game with a very strong emphasis on very trippy, iridescent visuals and kind of like gameplay that's very much immediate and spatial within your arm's reach. So that's the kind of concept behind the game. It probably doesn't explain that much about what the experience is like, but I think it describes maybe the market it's after. It's very much a sort of casual game. You can pick it up, play it for a short amount of time, easy to learn, but can get quite tricky, as you go on.
A nice, calm way to describe this, it would be how people describe LSD. Because like when you're in that, you were kind of like let me see some stuff, and it's very much it looks like, and even like when you look at other like stuff about the game, like with your trailers out or screenshots, I'm very curious, kind of where did you get inspiration to like want to make this game? Because I don't know if I ever would have thought of creating something quite like this.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I mean, if you look at some of the other things I've done in the past, I'm very interested in sort of like the use of technology to create quite bizarre, multi-sensory experiences. I'm interested in concepts, things like, Buddhism, meditation, dreams, and alternate realities, and sort of like cross-modal sound visualizers and sound visualization, all these kinds of really interesting sort of areas of the potential of human experience, which is sort of slightly outside of our normal daily existence, but there's a sort of great opportunity in sort of virtual reality to sort of mess around with these kind of multi-sensory things and to create really bizarre, out of this world visuals and things. And I feel like, to some extent, Squingle goes some of the way towards that. Like, I think virtual reality itself is one of these really fascinating sort of like a layer apart from reality. It's like this alternate reality. And so it's a beautiful space to start playing around with these things. And Squingle tries to sort of go a small percentage of the way to explore those alternate realities like lucid dreaming or psychedelic drug experiences, or, those kind of things.
It's very interesting. Like, obviously, I tend to agree that I think VR is a cool space for exploring these concepts, because if inherently these concepts are, to us, experience them in 3D, you have to do some 3D thing to do it, and that's VR is good for that. I'm curious, the obvious question that I feel like you've been thinking the entire time of development. From a marketing and sales of this game, I feel, correct me if you think I'm wrong, that VR is already a niche market, and I'm curious, do you feel you must have too niche of a product within this niche market, or are you being like, it's kind of the thing I want to make, and you understand that limitation, but to you it's more of like an art showpiece or something more akin to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd love for Squingle to be sustainable in terms of like earning, have enough people play it to pay for itself and to sort of justify the hours and things that I've been spending a lot of my time into. But at the same time, I'm quite realistic in thinking that VR is such a tiny market at the moment, and especially with this art style and the kind of gameplay, if you want to make money, probably don't make a VR game. And if you're going to make a VR game and you want to make money, probably make, I don't know, like Beat Saber or like a shooting game, like a first-person shooter or something. And those things are really fun and really great and really popular. I guess it's just not the game I would choose to make myself. So yeah, it's very much a bit. It's kind of self-expression more than trying to fill a void in the market. I mean, having said that, whenever I look for games in the VR space, I'm always looking for new experiences and new things, and I think there's a lot of people like me out there. So, I mean, it's very difficult to know, and you might be absolutely right. Maybe no one will buy it. Maybe the market's too small, but I do think that there is a small group that will appreciate it, and it's for those people, and for myself, that I'm making it really. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense because to me, and maybe I phrase it wrong, but to me, I very much think of this as like when pre-pandemic times, we all got to go to these like indie game showcases or like those museums that have interactive pieces. To me, I feel like this is something that would like. I feel like that's the market this naturally fits within. I'm curious, kind of. So obviously, you talk about in a lot of ways. As you think about now, you're making this a game you want to play, and it's for you. And at the same time, as we talk about this being this expressionate piece, it is still this puzzle game in its core. How do you kind of, when you're crafting these puzzles, kind of like define like how difficult you want it to be for the user, or do you want it to more be like not super hard, but it's the experience of them kind of going through these steps you kind of care about? Like, how do you kind of balance this like progression base of the gameplay versus experiencing the experience?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's something that I've been learning. I've come into this game, quite naively. I've never made a puzzle game before. I've played lots of puzzle games, but at the same time, it's really difficult, especially when you're developing a game and you naturally know what you're doing and you become very good at your own game because you're spending so much time playing it and tweaking it. It's really difficult to put yourself in the position of someone who's never played it, coming in and understanding the learning curve. And so that's why we've been sort of running a beta program for the last like month or two, and we've implemented just some basic Unity analytics or whatever, so we can see how many times people are dying on different levels, or how long it takes them to complete levels, and where people get bored and where people drop off, how many levels people complete, that kind of thing. So that's, and also based on a lot of the verbal feedback and written feedback we've received from beta testers, we get sort of a real feeling. The other thing about it is that the general population has a huge sort of distribution in abilities and experience, especially with VR or with puzzle games or just in general with anything. And so to be able to try and accommodate from, my parents or something who have like never played a video game, and I'd like to be able to target the really casual gamer who's coming to video games and VR for the first time, to someone who's got much more experience in VR and is going to, that can also be quite a challenge. But yeah, using analytics and getting a lot of feedback is kind of the solution. And I think with this game as well, there's a lot of parameters that I can tweak to adjust the difficulty. So it's not like, you design something and it's very hard to budge. You can kind of, you can change the number of obviously things like the health meter, but you can also change, the frequency of checkpoints or the elasticity of the the object, that sort of gives it the leeway so that you don't die or something like that. So there's quite a lot of adjustment that can take place. Having said that, it's still hard to get the learning curve correct. And maybe I should explain a little bit about what you actually do in the game, because
I was about to jump to is exactly that. I was like, we talk about this abstractly.
Explaining all this stuff, and then so essentially, Squingle is a game where you have to guide these orbs, which are revolving around each other at a constant distance from each other. They're sort of revolving around each other, and you have to guide them through this maze. It's like an organic 3D maze, which is sort of like liquid crystal, and it sort of reacts to you, and you react to it as you sort of guide these orbs through these iridescent maze in 3D space. So it sort of like requires precision in accuracy of your hand, but because the orbs are rotating, like you have to kind of there's a lot of timing involved, so you have to time your movement correctly so that the orbs are at the right stage of their rotation to get through sort of narrow passages or spiral sections of the maze. So that's kind of the concept. Games that it's the most similar to, or that it draws some inspiration from, are games like Kuru Kuru Kurin on the Game Boy Advance, which was a favorite game of mine when I was a kid. And that in that game it's similar, but you have to guide a sort of rotating bar through a maze. Obviously that game is 2-dimensional on the Game Boy Advance, whereas this game sort of takes that concept but moves it into a sort of more modern context in 3D space with your hand as and positional tracking as the input rather than using the D-pad.
That's interesting, because part of it to me is, it's funny because the more we think about this game and the more I kind of think about it and we talk about it, to me it'd be very interesting because like if this was like, instead of it being this abstract thing, if it was like nodes going through blood cells and stuff like that, because it very much has that kind of feel to me, kind of like when we like think about that kind of stuff. So I'm curious then, as you've kind of gone through this, is it so I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some level of this purposely being abstract, so that way the user kind of get their own experience out of it versus like putting it in something concrete, like making it going through blood cells or something that like we natively understand.
Yeah, I mean, early on, a big reaction to a lot of like the trailer and some of the screenshots. I think at least 2 people commented that the game looked a bit like intestines or something like that, or like someone said it was they gave it the nickname Colon Simulator 2020 or something like that. So obviously that was an association we don't really want for a video game. We don't want to be compared to a colon. So I've been working quite hard to make sure that our branding and imagery tries to move away from that association to some extent. Me talking about it now is probably not helping. But we've sort of settled on a sort of storyline. You do encounter a character in the game who's this kind of psychedelic goddess guru character who sort of has a slightly ambiguous purpose in the game, but it kind of turns out that you're helping this character in some space that's outside of time, maybe before the universe is created or something, and you're manipulating the laws of sort of cause and effect or something like that to help you and the character progress through this sort of evolution of the universe and life, and event, I don't know, awakening or like ultimate realization of consciousness or something like that. I mean, it's a little bit of a far-fetched story, but it just sort of gives a little bit of a context to the sort of otherworldly, abstract visual element of the game as well. So I hope people can focus on that rather than the digestive tract when they're playing.
A fair thing that you want to not be compared to the poop shoot, I think is a nice way of calling it. So,
Yeah,
wow, that's
yeah.
wild.
I hope poop shoot isn't the word people come away from this. It will be now, though, won't it?
See, just rebrand it as the poop shoot. It'd be great. It's good reskinning gross
Well,
leads
maybe
at
we
your
should
end.
just we should just go with it. Go with the poo. You know.
It's a very interesting problem that you have of that. Yeah, you want to naturally not be compared to those parts, in the way it kind of is, but naturally kind of feels that. Going back to though, because like I just feel these games are really hard to wrap people's minds around when they're not in VR. And I feel, which is funny because I always feel like VR already has an issue of unless you experience VR, you don't understand it. Um, how is that kind of? Let's talk about that. So as we talk about, you are releasing over time betas, and you have Discord, and you have this like continual user testing going on. And how is it that like besides doing something like this, how is it that you're like selling people on this experience, this thing they want to do, when like it's really hard to explain just naturally what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. One of the members of our team, Chloe Lamb, who is helping with sort of marketing and publishing and producing, she recently forwarded me this sort of like this guy who what's his name? Kurt Gardner. He's done loads of really famous VR trailers, and his website, he gives a lot of information about about doing really kick-ass game trailers that really communicate the concept. So I've just been looking at that today and been learning a lot of stuff from it. But I think that the stuff we've put out so far, like with screenshots and the trailer video, don't really do justice to the experience at all. And it's definitely this problem that you have identified, that it's, unless you try it, it's really hard to communicate a VR experience. But the idea I got from this guy is to use sort of external cameras in the virtual environment, maybe with a virtual avatar inside, so that you can sort of film from an external perspective within the game what the person's actually doing, and sort of the emotional content of that experience. I think it's sort of similar to when we watch football, we don't watch someone with like a GoPro strapped to their head, from the player's perspective, because that would be horrible, shaky footage that doesn't give you the overall picture of what's going on in the player's mind and in the sort of team aspect of the game, right? Instead, you have these cameras that are from the audience perspective or flying over from, so it makes a big difference how you show it in that. And so that's something I'm going to be focusing on quite a lot over the next month or so, is really trying to do justice and spend some development time to, program cameras that might show different perspectives of the gameplay and show a more exciting experience that people can empathize with.
So as we're talking, I'm looking at your Steam page, and you're going to tell me this changed because of game development. Currently, we are talking on February 2nd. The game is currently slated for roughly 7 weeks from now.
Yeah.
First obvious question. Is it still slated that way? Do we have a delay incoming? Normal game development stuff.
Yeah, I guess, probably what a lot of people will be taking away from this conversation is that, the main developer of Squingle doesn't really know what he's doing when it comes to game publishing and game development. Obviously, it's a very much a learning experience for all of us. I think that there is going to be a release in March. It might get downgraded to a sort of early access release, because and the main reason for that is that even though we've got pretty much all the components complete and the UI and everything, there are going to be elements that we won't have finalized yet. So I want to release it because I think it's kind of at a stage, and I think we're also going to need more people to play it to help to get the word out, partly, but also to get more feedback and sort of fine tune it. So I think it's going to be an early access release on Steam, and partly, the things that we need to fine tune again is that sort of learning curve, and maybe we can add some things depending on what people request, like in terms of integration with some of Steam's platform specific features, like, I don't know, like cloud saves, or what do you call it, like badges and achievements, and sort of like global rankings on like scoreboards and things like that. That definitely won't be implemented for the sort of first release. And ultimately we'd like to publish it on other platforms, especially things like the Oculus Quest and PlayStation, which have a larger user base, and it's more likely to fit those formats very much, because it's quite a casual game. But before we can launch on those things, it's a little bit of a different kettle of fish, I think. We need to really fine tune it and get it up to scratch to a higher level than it will be in March. But I mean, hopefully it'll be basically complete and a lot of fun to play in March. But just it's all those bells and whistles that take the time. And I would say that the trailer as well is a bell and whistle that we need to get right, and that's not going to be something we'd probably do in the next we're going to be doing it over the next 7 weeks, but it's not going to be something that's going to be ready in time. But I mean, I'm up for advice if anyone's got advice on how to approach this thing, like whether I'm just talking like an insane person who doesn't know what I'm talking about. I'd be very much open to learning from anyone who's got good advice.
Dilemma of always, do we like what games are? It's always the question I always ask, right? Is what game is suited for early access versus what game needs to come out as this thing? And I feel like the abstract games are the hardest to answer on that question. Like, there's some obvious things. Roguelikes, I think, can always be in early access for broad examples, right? There are examples maybe not, but like this idea. RPGs, maybe a little bit harder. Shooters, hit or miss, right? These abstract arty games, you're like, yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, just because how much of it is the initial experience that really matters, and how much of it is fine-tuning it. Like, it's a very interesting question. And early access, I feel, is best for games that, I think you might agree, games that are replayable, but you can subtly change things to see kind of what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, we need quite a lot of people to play it to get the data in order to fine-tune it. And I don't want people to think that we're using them on a crappy version of the game, to make it better. But to some extent, we do need that. So obviously that would be a caveat in the early access, disclaimer kind of thing. But the other thing is, it's about validation. We need to validate the idea, because we can't just go and spend sort of tens of thousands of dollars on fine tuning, implementing all the features and getting a really kick-ass trailer and, this, that and the other. If it's not validated as an idea and people are, showing interest in actually playing it. So I think that's a big part of it. As an indie game thing with little experience, I'm kind of a little bit conservative about, going all in, because I think that, that's the surefire way to just lose loads of money and then not be able to do anything in the future. So it's a little bit of a cautious approach. Yeah, for sure.
Fair enough. So then let's see if we get more testers for you and more eyes on this game. If people were looking to either go check it out or be part of the conversation of the game, where would you have them head all that fun stuff?
Well, absolutely visit our website at www.squingle.com. We're also on Twitter at Squingle Studios, and same with Instagram. We're also on Facebook. But the most important thing, I guess, is for people to check it out on Steam and add it to their wish list so they can get sort of notified on. We do a lot of the sort of beta updates and things like that. People can actually join our beta program right now and play the game right now. If they sign up, they'll get sent a code. They can download the game on Steam. So really encourage people to have a go.
Thank you for your time today, in your evening, my morning, taking time to sit down and talk to us about the game. And I look forward to whatever some point in March brings us, whether it be early access or the full release. And best of luck getting to that finish line, because we all know you're in the fun, hard part now of finishing a game.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And yeah, if anyone's got any advice, be great. I'm definitely soliciting advice, so reach out.
But yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from all the way around the world. To get us started, could you please introduce yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Jakub Patsura. I'm a business developer, and I'm responsible for the game The Tenants. Yeah.
Perfect. So maybe to get started then, can you tell us, like, what is The Tenants?
Sure. So The Tenants is like city builder, something like this. It's a game where you buy the flats, you do orders, you do jobs, you take care of your tenants, like you make sure that they have everything they need. Then you can like sell your flats, houses, and that's basically it. It's like a sandbox game, so we can do like we're still thinking about. Okay, maybe that's a bit too much to discuss to explain, but yeah, that's the basic. It's like a city builder with management.
That's a good way of putting it. I joked when I saw the game that it reminded me of Sims meets SimCity. It's kind of the joke I had in my head, because it's like it's the
Yeah,
degradation, it's the nuance of SimCity, but like the scale of The Sims.
yeah, exactly. It's like nothing that new. So like the idea behind the tenants was that the team that is developing the game, they finished their previous project, and like we as Frozen District, we had the game already House Flipper. I'm not sure you know it. Um, so it's like it's quite successful on Steam. Basically, it's like a simulator game where you clean your houses, and it's like Sims without Sims, basically. It's quite nice. So like they had availability to do some game. We made market research, and we've seen that well on Steam there's no such game like The Tenants. So we made like a pre-production. So like we prepared the Steam card, we prepared the trailer, and we figured out that people like it. So then we started developing it. So it's like nothing brand new that there's not been on the market, but yeah, we wanted to do it to like for some like that House Flipper audience could like, and yeah, here it is.
Nice. So yeah. So one of the things that I think was very interesting, um, about The Tenants when I thought of it was, obviously, let's just say recently, landlords aren't the most popular of people. So I'm kind of curious, because obviously, fundamentally, this game is about making those properties and being a landlord in a lot of ways. Where did you get, like, why immediately did this like come to your guys' mind of like making this game? Was there some like experience that led to this, or is this kind of like we want to build a simulation and this seems like a topic that people aren't touching?
Mm. Well, that's nothing like an amazing story to tell. That was like we knew we wanted to make a game that would fit for House Flipper's audience, and then we started building a story around it. And actually, what might be interesting, like there was one guy from USA that contacted us, was quite successful like landlord, and he said that he was always dreaming about creating such game like The Tenants, and he said that if we needed any help from him or experience like that and so on, he's there for us. And we had a couple of calls with him, and yeah, like he suggested what could be in the game, and right now he's helping us with the development actually. So yeah, we try to make the game quite realistic.
I didn't realize. I like how you have a landlord as a consultant on the game. I think that,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wish I
exactly.
hope he's listed as like the subject matter expert, like in the credits or some nonsense. Like, what's your job? You're like, I'm an actual landlord. Like you ask someone actually.
Yeah, sure, that's true. We need to do it. Um, And yeah, like we figured out because we are in Poland and the way we rent flats here is completely different the way they do it in USA, for example. So like the problems we face here and the way it's done, it's completely different. So it was quite good experience to have
I
it.
don't know if I've processed. Is that different in Poland? What is it more like government like influence in there, or like what do you mean by it's that different in Poland versus America?
Okay, so for example, basically, whenever you rent a flat in Poland, you have it fully furnished. For example, that was the basic thing. Like we didn't even know that it's that much different in USA.
Interesting. So in the U.S., it's very split. I have rented furnished apartments before, but the default is definitely the not furnished alternative.
Yes, exactly.
But I didn't realize in
Mhm.
Poland they all come furnished. That is a big difference.
Yeah, like no, most of them are furnished, but it's quite surprising when it's not furnished, at all. Like at times you need to buy a few things, but most of them they are there.
That, that I could see where functionally that'd be a very different game than if all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you didn't even think of that like being a thing that you have to think about even.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so we had to change it, because basically, in the tenants at first, the game was like the jobs you were meant to be done, you were meant to do, they were, they were fully furnished, and then we had to remove some stuff and then change it a little bit to make it a bit more realistic. And for example, like regarding this topic in House Flipper in our other game, because we live in Poland and in every single flat you have radiators, right? Because it's quite cold here, and it occurs that in the US you don't have these things, and as such, so players were like, "What the heck is it?" Like, why do we have radiators everywhere and we need to install them and so on? So yeah, that was quite funny as well.
Also, U.S. I feel like at this point we've kind of changed how we heat houses. Maybe Poland, you have to like radios. I feel like even for my heating a house party are just less common too. It's like we usually have like a more central unit that like we don't see and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. So in Poland, like everywhere you have like radiators on the wall. And yeah, like nowadays it's more like going for AC maybe as well to support it, but yeah, radiators are everywhere.
I could see. I'd appreciate that. Like you, part of me wishes that you made this game like it was how it is in Poland, but like you put it set in America, so every American's like, this just seems off. Like just something just seems off about
Uh,
this.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, based on how Slipper experience, like we had to change it. And like for example, as well, like we we get to know that in US you have more problems like with some bugs maybe, like with cockroaches and so on. In here it's like because it's quite cold, like we don't have these problems as such. So, but I heard that it is a thing there.
Yeah, if you
Um,
want to look up bug problems, just look up anything in New York City, and like they have like mutated rats and stuff they can't get rid of. They have a rat department. Like it's just impossible to control.
yeah. So like even recently we added this feature to the tenants where you need to take care of cockroaches. So you have like this mechanic. There's the uncle that is helping you with the flats. So you walk around with a spray and you try to kill all the cockroaches. It's like a mini game.
Well, that is a. So you don't have a cockroach problem, or any of that stuff like in
No,
Poland?
no, we have it, but it's not that common. I'd say it's like well, when it happens, it's like a surprise. It's not like it's something common.
Well, the record, 100% didn't expect this to be how different it is, but that is some massive differences kind of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So one of the things I'm curious about, so a game like this obviously is, I think of it like an economic balance in a lot of ways of like you have to obviously balance how much stuff costs versus income and like make sure there's a sense of progression for players. So as you guys are going through this, what was kind of like the feeling you wanted in mind for players? Do you want them to feel like I'm always just have too much cash or just enough cash or too little? Like how do you kind of look at that economic friction inside this?
hmm Okay, so the thing is, let me think about it. Okay, so basically, at first, like since this is like a sandbox game, so we had to give player like a sense that of progress, and a sense of like of a goal they want to achieve. So like the goal, earn as much money as you can. It's like, it's okay, but it's not that good. So the game starts like that you inherit a flat from your aunt, and then you need to equip it. So then the first goal is like to earn some money to equip your flat. And then the more as you so you do so that's the goal. You do jobs, you earn money to do it, and this is the first goal. And then the game tells you to buy a few flats, to start having your own tenants, and yet to build it like that. And this is only in the first district. And like recently we added the second district, where so like the first district is like suburbs. Wait, no, it's slums. The second district is suburbs. So as well, you have this progression that you have different types of tenants, of like archetypes. In the first district you have like workaholic, alcoholic, different types of people. They have different top problems, and then you progress to second district, and you have different problems and different people. So that's the thing. So like you need to have certain cash flow to progress to the second district. So that's as well like your aim.
Real. So that makes sense. So I'm kind of curious, is that a thing? Like, so obviously that's a very. I think of suburbs as a more American thing in the way that like we think of them. Is that a thing kind of when you guys are making it? Or is that in one of those like other like cultural things you get used to, kind of like how America has developed like out in suburbs and a lot of that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's done more like in your way, US, the way it's been built in the US. Um, I think I could. Okay, but our listeners wouldn't see it. But yeah, somewhere I have a map. I could show it how we've done it. And what's quite interesting is like the way the difference in the not in the art, but in the way it's done, the first district and the second district. Because of course the first district was done like a year ago, maybe, and then the second district was done recently. So it shows as well like the way we progressed as a team and the art style and so on. And yeah, and what's worth mentioning as well maybe is that we plan on doing the third district, but it will be in the early access, like maybe in a few months. So yeah, like to release the game right now to have these two districts. And then based on the feedback and the way what people would want to see, then we want to do Manhattan. So there will be like again different types of tenants. They would be more like working like maybe workaholics and high tier people, kind of with different types of flats, different problems and everything.
Manhattan, you have other weird problems. You're like, yep, we have 1,000 people, but we have 800 rooms. How do we make this all fit? Because it would be so clustered full of people.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of curious, and obviously, so as we're talking about, you're the biz dev person, and you're going into early access soon-ish. Asterisks. How do you kind of view? So in a game like this, I feel like is very ripe for early access in the way of like you just get a lot of data and people, and you keep adding new kind of locations and features to it. How do you guys view something that you determine as early access ready versus like ready for like, I hate to say it, release, but like that idea of like, because it's all gray and everything, but like the idea of like early access game versus like you define this as a full game?
Yeah, so like actually I started with this that I was fighting for this to make it early access because my boss was like, no, let's do it the way House Flipper was done, and let's release it as a full game. But I know that sandbox games, it's quite difficult to decide when the game is actually ready. And the Tenants is already in the development for like 1.5 years. And it's still like there's so much more that we could do. Like our backlog is never ending, we always add in like new features, like what could be done and so on. So like based on the feedback we gathered already, because we have closed beta, and we've given away over 500 keys. So we got a lot of feedback, what people would want to see, which implemented the most important feedback. And yeah, now we believe we are ready with releasing it in early access. So like we think that there's quite a lot to do already in the game because there are two districts, different types of tenants. You can play it like for many hours, and then based on again what's the most requested, then we will plan to do it like that. And what I've seen, I think like the most I was inspired on the Raft, the way they did it, because like it was funny because no Raft, yeah, Raft was released the same week as the House Flipper, our first game. And I've seen how much it progressed since like for the past 2 years. So I thought, well, I think this is something we could aim for the tenants. And yeah, and we have like ready the roadmap for the year for the upcoming year, like what we would want to add and so on. So it's not like, well, here is some game and try to play it and tell us what to do. Like we know what we want to do, but based on the feedback, we will think, okay, this is what you want more, so we can shift it a little bit and add what you request.
Do you have any of those features that you've publicly announced that you kind of want to talk about that like will be in the early access game that like aren't ready obviously yet for this early access release?
Yeah, let me look at the list. But yeah, like we will for sure want to add like more archetypes of the tenants. So because basically now we have like an influencer, alcoholic, fitness person, and I'm not sure. Yeah, like a normal working person. That's it. And yeah, we want to add an artist, for example. It's maybe even before release. A musician, I think. So like yeah, with the game being already released, in each update we will want to add like more variety of the tenants. So you will observe them, how they act, and what problems do they have.
So I
We want to ask, yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, so I assume one of the big things obviously is when you have that is balancing the tenants you have in a house. So like for example being I wouldn't have a clean freak if this was a tenant type that lived in the same unit as or the same like set of units that would like be a exterminator because obviously that's a very dirty
Yeah,
job. Or like I'm curious kind of like to what level are you guys really thinking about that kind of nuance kind of long term?
yes. That's another thing we were thinking about, and like it's still not there in the game because it's like we had this idea, we like it a lot, and we want to do it, but it's not like the top priority, you know. So yeah, but we'd love to do it. We even thought about like adding so maybe like relationship status. So you know there are like maybe couples and um, and so on, right? So that was it. Yeah, definitely we want to do this like completely new district update. And yeah, and for the launch, we want to do like sim workshop support because like again, like so with the tenants, we're getting a lot of feedback from the house flipper, you know, from our like the first game, and recently in December we added Steam Workshop support, and we've seen how much the game like opened up again, and like what items are people adding and so on and so on. So we know that Steam Workshop support it's a huge feature and we want to support it. So yeah, before the full release, we want to do it.
That makes a lot of sense. Perfect. So yeah, so let's see. The game is The Tenants. Um,
Yep.
you are a landlord. You get to go deal with, as we get to say, problematic tenants and trying to make a living. The game comes out currently says on Steam pages I'm active right now. It says Q1 2021, which I assume the date you're sticking with. You're not giving us any tighter than that.
Yeah. Like exactly. That's the key. You know, we didn't want to say exact time, so people wouldn't be like back then as it's in a week. It's in a week. We know that we want to release it in Q1, and the first time we wanted to release it in December in February. But now we're aiming for like by the end of March, and we think it's quite it will happen. So yeah. And what's worth mentioning as well is that the tenants will be available, like the demo will be available for free. We don't know yet. We don't know yet when, but like maybe in 2 weeks it will be available to try it out.
Well, I want to say thank you again for taking the end of your workday to come down and sit down and talk to me about the tenants. And I look forward to seeing Hopefully, like The Sims, I could do weird, obnoxious stuff where I could just take doors off units and just have them die, but probably not. But I definitely look forward to seeing how this game evolves and changes over time. And again, thank you again for giving us access early to the game to go poke around in it, to get ready for this and all that fun stuff. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks a lot, and have a good one.
This podcast was a production of the SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at the SWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeatBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.